Hello, and welcome back to the Gatherers podcast. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Palm Springs based artist Betsy Enzensberger. Betsy hails from Long Island, New York, and she has a degree in fine art and biology from Tulane University. She created a amazing series of work called the Original Melting Pops, which have really skyrocketed her to worldwide fame. If you have the chance, look her up on Instagram. I just came off of about a half an hour of diving deep into her reels, and it is one of the happiest places on Instagram. Get ready to be mesmerized, and you can see all of her craft and the precision with which she works. But Betsy is going to be talking a little bit about her creations and her worldviews today with us. Thank you, Betsy.
Thanks for having me.
So how did you make the leap from fine art and biology to working with resin, and specifically, popsicles are your muse? Can you walk us through a little bit of your journey of how you got to creating these masterpieces?
This is going to be a decades long story. I really wanted to study fine art, and I did not go to an art school. I picked a school in a fun city. I just knew it was a good school. I knew there'd be opportunities, and I chose Tulane. But they do happen to have a good arts program. I really loved my teachers. I was an abstract painter, and I spent hours and hours and hours and hours in the studio. And I did do a biology minor, which kind of balanced my brain in this weird way. It was not by choice. It was because my parents really discouraged art as a major. They didn't really see any future with that. And I think a lot of parents do feel that way. And yeah, it's really hard to make it in the art world, that's for sure. But so they're like, give yourself a backup, do something else. And so I did. And it ended up working out pretty well because what I do now with chemicals and things like that, I do have like a real heavy science element in my work.
In addition to chemicals, you also are pretty adept at power tools. You've gone from abstract painting to this 3D world where you've got these popsicles that are melting. And when you watch your videos, you see the process to create it, but it's amazing that you're able to get that level of polish on something in the scale that you're working. And when I talk about scale, I'm not talking just about like big pops, because you've got these big popsicle sticks. You also you've just introduced on a very micro scale your wonderful melting popsicles. How has the difference in scale in the power tools and the chemistry, how is that going from big to micro?
Well, first of all, I have kind of a weird love affair with power tools. I just, it's weird because I present these dainty little pretty shiny sculptures, but the amount of equipment that goes into making them is crazy. So in those reels that you've been watching, the sanding, the sawing, the all of that, like I love adding that in because I'm like, wait a second, just so you know, a lot of work goes into creating these things and it's really messy. And yes, I'm in a hazmat suit most of the time, wearing respirators and gloves, and it's gnarly. Um, so yeah, going from large to small to small to large, like I started out at like a 5 inch size, went up to 8 feet, and then suddenly went back down to 2.75 inches. It's so weird to play with scale. Even with painting, I've always felt a large canvas has been kind of my comfort zone. I like broad strokes. I like being able to use my full arm when painting and when sawing and sanding. And so when it comes down to just using your fingers to create these little tiny things that you can barely see, I feel like my sight is getting worse and worse as I get older. So it's like it's hard actually going down to this teeny tiny scale. But to be honest, it was just something I was just playing with. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing it. I don't know if I'm gonna keep making big ones or small ones or whatever. I just go with the flow, whatever I feel like doing.
Well, the playful nature of what you create, it just it permeates the entire collection. So how did you come about popsicles being your muse? And your popsicles, they're always melting. So there's this wonderful urgency, this controlled chaos when viewing your pieces. And um, can you talk a little bit about how you create your drips? And are they spontaneous? Talk a little bit about popsicles as your muse.
Okay, so popsicles in general. Popsicles, ice cream. When I first started sculpting, I wanted something that would melt, and I'm like, oh, ice cream, right? So I started with ice cream, and it was the melting vision came from working with resin on this weird painting, and then it kind of tipped over in the middle of the night. Earthquake, who knows why it tipped over, but it made this amazing creamy, beautiful, colorful puddle on the floor. The resin just fell off. And so the painting was melting off the canvas onto the floor. And I kind of just peeled the whole thing up and I was like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing ever. It looks like ice cream. So originally I started making ice cream cones melting. But the translucency of the colors is important to me. It creates in a whole nother dimension, and it's just more complicated to work with like translucent colors, I find. So one of my girlfriends said, would you make me a red popsicle? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I made one, and then I was like, boom, this is so pretty. It's so delicious. I'm just gonna make a few more of these. And then, it went from like just red popsicle to adding in design elements, these stripes, and then the woven stripes where they blend into each other. It's almost like sewing resin stripes together. And then I'm like, oh, let's cast some dollar bills into resin because you're not supposed to do that sort of stuff with money. So let's, break the law and go crazy. Like that's as bad as I get, really. Um, I'm pretty boring
You kind of
otherwise.
described a wild night out for me too.
I know it's so yeah, it's fun for me to play with the design elements within the same shape. I do focus on the popsicle because of its unifying element. The the thing I always wanted to do as an artist was to find a gallery that would be able to take me around the world. Like, and selfishly, it was just I wanted to travel with my art. I'm like, oh, it's a write-off if I go travel with my art, right? So I started doing that, and I found a gallery that took me to Hong Kong, and then to Europe and all this, and so I was like traveling all over the world with my art, and that was so much fun. But it just so happened that what I chose to use as my focal point in my art was a popsicle, and that is something that every culture in the world has. It's not just it's not always the same flavor, it's not always the same shape, but it is this universal delicious happy treat that people share. So when I was in Hong Kong, people knew what it was. It's like it's not like you pick something that's just American. I picked something that was internationally known, and something that makes everyone happy.
Well, it's helpful to hear your ulterior motive. I think our minds might work in a very similar manner of having your work take you places. And just reading on your bio, the places that you've exhibited, not only just the number of cities worldwide, but what I found really interesting is some of your pieces currently are in some destinations that you might not expect in the destination retail space. So, Hotel Del Coronado, Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, the LAX Delta Terminal. How have those alternate venues been to showcase your masterpieces?
Well, those are fun venues because they're public. So anyone can go there and see my work. The one at the Del Coronado is right outside of their little ice cream shop, and it is
Spreckles?
painted, yes, and it's painted to, you know, represent the hotel more than the ice cream. I went back and forth with the team there, the marketing team, and we went over designs for several months before I actually created it. But that's great because it unifies the ice cream shop and the hotel. And then if the ice cream shop isn't there one day, it still makes sense to be there.
You've described your work as fine art, but borderline kitsch. How is that juxtaposition position you in the art world? And how would you describe your collectors, your followers?
I think you can do what I'm doing and present it in a different place, and it will be kitsch. But what I do, I try to not make realistic. I try to make it more artsy, designy. And with the amount of years that I've studied in resin, my skill level, I think that the product that I present is something that should be viewed in a white wall gallery, that should be collected by people, not by, not just something to like throw around, give to your kids, that sort of thing. I want it to be held with some esteem. It's a lot of work goes into these things and a lot of skill on my end is required to make these objects. So yes, it if placed in the wrong venue, it would definitely be considered kitsch, toy, that sort of thing. But I try to steer myself in the right direction.
Can you talk a little bit about your journey to finding your following? I've heard in other interviews where you've shared instances where, like you just described, your work wasn't in maybe a gallery or a place that they respected the level of craftsmanship of your creations. What led you to finding the followers that have supported and celebrated your art? And how did you deal with the alternative?
That is one of those things that I think every artist needs to go through. And no matter what, it hurts your heart because what you're putting out is your heart and soul in the art, the form of art. So you put it out there, and if it's not received well, it hurts. But at this point in my career, I feel like it's all trial and error. It still is. And there have been some places where I've shown my work in shops and a shop versus a gallery, let's say, and you place it next to like a book or something, and somebody's there to buy like a $20 book, and then they see this $250 sculpture, and they're like, why? I don't, this doesn't make any sense. So that is not the right placement. So I would put it in a gallery where it is on a pedestal by itself. It is special. It is royal. I want you to look at it by itself and not compare it to a book or something like that. But the other thing is, like taking your work to a gallery in a city and they just don't like it, they're just not into it. And that's okay. Everyone has a right to their own opinion. I went all the way to Hong Kong and was kind of like laughed out of Hong Kong. Like, I don't know why, but that type of art just didn't resonate with them. And at the time, I was sad. I was like, oh my God, I just spent thousands of dollars to get here, the creating, the shipping, me flying over with a suitcase full of popsicles, and you don't like it? Like, what do I do now? I was heartbroken. Every situation you go into, you have to go with no expectations because the chances of getting let down are 50-50. So, just expect nothing and be pleasantly surprised if it all works out.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens to your ego as your career progresses.
Oh,
I found that just letting go of those expectations and letting go of the ego around it, it's life-saving. You get you get to the point where you can anticipate a little bit more the further you go on in your career, but
Mhm.
when it happens, it's not easy,
I
that
know.
rejection.
I
Uh,
know. And I try to console other artists. They're like, oh, my work isn't good. It was rejected from let's say, an open call. And I'm like, no, it's not that it's not good. It's that it didn't fit in with the theme, or who knows what it was. But the curator that rejects it, it's not that they don't like it. But there's so many reasons why a piece of art gets rejected from a show, or people don't resonate with it, It's you know, just the way you are. You go to a store and picking out tomatoes, and why do you pick one? One because it looks perfect, or one because it looks imperfect? It's just, everyone has a choice, and
you
you know,
can't take it personally at the end of the day.
right.
So in another interview I watched of you, you shared that you mess up all the time. And I love I love talking about messing up. It's something that I do all the time. Can you share your views on the art of making mistakes?
Oh my God, I think it's so important. Um, I've always been a really inquisitive person, so I love asking questions. And then I've also always been that person where I will do better if I make a mistake first, if I stumble and fall. I've worked in a lot of art galleries, and I've done something wrong and been coached, and then I improve, and I'm much better than when I started. And for me, that's the most important thing. So I would never scold anyone for making mistakes. There's always room for improvement. And this sort of thing happens in my art all the time. I'm not kidding. I will go in with a plan and like have the most disastrous day, and then something beautiful comes out of it, or I learn something about resin that I didn't know, or this, that, and the other thing. There are so many mistakes. It's with the medium I'm working with in particular, it's so environmentally dependent that, even 10 years in working with resin, I go in thinking I know it, but it's like it fights with me. And I often I ruin all of my clothes. I can it's like no matter what, I'm gonna destroy whatever I'm wearing. I'm probably gonna cry. And there's going to be at least one piece of art that's going to go into the drip bucket. That's where I put all my mistakes, and I put them into a big bucket and make them into other sculptures and give them away.
Well, I loved learning that the genesis of your your collection was a mistake. It was a big old painting falling over in the middle of the night because of an earthquake, and
Oh my
that
God, you're
mistake
right.
led
You're
you
right.
where you are now. That's beautiful.
That's true. And it's also good to have people that you can call or go to if you make a mistake that you need an answer to. There's this automotive refinishing place near me. And I remember going over with tears coming down. I'm in the middle of a project and my spray gun is so clogged. I don't even know what to do. And the guy was so nice. And it was this new gun. I didn't know how to take apart, and he showed me how to clean it properly. It's so good to have people that you can count on to help you. And I go in and I'm just like this girl, this just artist. And I'm sure that they deal with a lot of men in the automotive world. But I'm pretty hardcore. And they treated me with such respect, and they're so nice to me.
A kindness and a smile, which is how I see your mode of operation, like consistently goes a really long way in situations like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And tears.
Yeah.
You go in somewhere crying, they're gonna be like, "Oh, but how do I shut this girl up?"
I've, that's benefited me before in my career too. So you have extensive experience working on the gallery side of the business, representing other artists. How has that affected how you operate as an artist?
Well, the reason I started working in galleries was because I didn't really know how they worked. And I thought, well, I'm an artist. I want to work with a gallery one day. Let me work for a gallery and see if I can figure it out that way. And then I can, submit my own work. And I kind of fell in love with the idea of working for a gallery that wouldn't have maybe been a good fit for my art, but helping other artists sell their art. And it definitely made me a more organized person and have a huge respect for the galleries that I work with. It gave me insight into the way that artists who haven't worked on both sides see galleries. Um, and it makes me want to help people. I really love trying at least to help sell somebody else's art or guide them in a way that would help them connect with the collector better. It's become a passion.
So, can you speak a little bit more about this nurturing side that you have? This is a very big theme. Anytime I have a conversation with you or I read something about you, you helping other artists is has been a big part of who you are. Is that what you experienced as you were up and coming in the world?
No, I wish. I I didn't really have any help. I just kind of was like, I don't know what to do, and I would just reach out to galleries and restaurants and whatever I could to get my work out there. I'd give a lot of it away because I'm like, well, if this person has it in their house, somebody will ask about it and reach out to me. And all of those things worked. But when I started working in galleries, I learned a whole lot more about the business of art, not just how to reach out. And I just learned it all trial and error. And I thought, oh my gosh, wouldn't it be amazing if somebody had helped me? I would have saved years if somebody had at least guided me a little bit. I know that there's classes you can take on the business of art and everything. And I don't know. I mean, yeah, some of that's good, but I think a personal touch, like, giving time to someone, one person, looking at their website, their Instagram, their portfolio, that's more that's more how I like to do it. I'm always happy to read somebody's artist statement, help them word things more efficiently. I wish somebody was there to help me even now. Even now, I need help. Everyone needs it. But then I'm also this independent person where I'm like, I don't want help in my studio. I don't want any assistance, that's for sure. I'm like, why would I give the fun part away to somebody else?
Yes.
And then I'm like, you know what? If I can do that, I can do my website too. I'm like, all right, it's not great, but it's good enough. And I can figure out the coding and all of that. When you figure one of these things out that just makes your head explode, it's like, wow, I just connected my shop to my website and I am so badass. And I can make a sculpture.
With power tools.
Yeah.
Um, the I think we might be wired very similarly based on how you just described yourself. I wonder sometimes, like, God, I really need help with this, but I think I'm probably giving out the wrong vibes because I'm such a DIYer.
Yeah. And you know what? There's Google. I was like,
Oh,
right before this
YouTube?
call, I was like, how to optimize my SEO and my shop page. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm gonna work a little bit more on that tomorrow. Like,
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Let's put that
definitely
to the
not
list.
a, search engine optimization person by any means. I'm not a marketing person, but I'm gonna try.
And you're gonna learn something along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe I learned that it's not for me and I need help. Who knows? I'm open to anything, but I'm definitely going to try and do it myself first.
Well, I definitely think there's value in having a baseline understanding of these big business things like SEO. As a entrepreneur, the world is constantly changing, and at least knowing the fundamentals, the words to use, how it relates to the big picture is very empowering when you do actually get help. So I
Yes,
think even getting help is one thing, but doing the baseline work to set your foundation is going to make you a better collaborator. And
absolutely.
I think that's where I also draw the line of, okay, when does my curiosity need to stop? And when do I need to raise my hand? So Betsy, this is my last question for you. And with your original melting pops, you use a trademark symbol on them. Can you talk about the significance of that symbol, the protection it gives you or doesn't in this world of...
When I started selling a lot of these and I wanted to start packaging them really cute, I thought, let's make a title. Let's kind of brand it. Oh, and this also borderlines kitsch, right? Giving it a brand and an image and all that. But I needed it to be kind of recognizable. And so if somebody sees my work and they know it's me, they can't pronounce my name, they're like, oh, well, those are the original melting pops. It doesn't have to be original. Original just refers to the fact that they're all handmade. They're all original works of art, made by me, made with love. All my DNA is in every piece, so you can count on that. But yeah, I love the original melting pops, and then my name and a little picture of what you're getting, and then my signature white boxes that I package everything in. I just thought trademarking that would be good. I did the trademark. I copyrighted my replicable designs because kind of in hopes of someone not copying my designs because they're replicable. But they did anyway. So
So what recourse do you have?
in China, I don't think you can do anything in China. In America you could, and and I have. It involves cease and desist and things like that. Getting Instagram pages taken down that are just blatantly pulling my images and selling them as their own, that sort of thing. I honestly, I don't spend a ton of time thinking about these things because the original work that I do cannot be replicated. And the things that I see out there that are the same, my copyrighted designs made by somebody else, it's not the same make quality. It's not, I'm sure that they're not using the resins that I use and things like that. I just leave it behind because to think about those things is like, would be a huge waste of my time when I can go ahead and just continue to make things better, bigger, more amazing, more unique. My collectors are people looking for things made by me, not for remakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I I've had the question. I mean, I'm operating at such a different level, selling, t-shirts and, stickers and magnets, but I have had people ask me, aren't you worried about being copied? And honestly, my feedback is, well, good luck to that person. I mean, it's not easy. Like, maybe you definitely make it look easy, but I know that it's not easy. So it's like, really good luck. If there is a person who can do what I am doing and be successful selling the exact stuff that I am doing, good luck to them. Oh,
Uh-oh. Everyone's going to copy everyone. If
yeah.
you look at everything out there, even movies are being remade. I get copied by small artists all the time, and people will send me screenshots. Somebody's copying you. Aren't you mad? I'm like, no, you know what? I don't have time in my life to be mad about these things. Like, go for it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's a stepping stone for them where they go and find something that is theirs, because otherwise it's just mine, it's just a copy of mine. So
I was talking with someone who was a generation above me in retail, and she
Mhm.
was super concerned of people copying me. Don't tell people where you're getting things made. But that's been the shift where it's almost taken the power back by saying, okay, here's where I get my t-shirts made, and you can watch them make it, and it's fascinating, and it's another small business. And
Mhm.
here, I'm going to pull back the curtain. You can see how I'm doing this. It's almost, to me, it's almost taking back the power.
Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you, Betsy. Thank you.
Oh,
Just
my
I
pleasure.
love what you do. I love the grace with which you operate. I love the warmth and inclusiveness. I love that you just the depth of your knowledge, the power tools, the chemistry that brings about your creation. I just have huge respect for what you do. So thank you for
Well,
making the
thank
world a better
you.
place.
Oh, well, lovely to chat with you as always. And we'll talk soon.